You know who was very good at? I mean, look, it's for a legal mind like Andy McCarthy. It's almost impossible to synthesize and boil all of this legal ease down to its essence. My fear is the severity of this case is so complex, but the severity of it gets lost because it's so complex and people kind of glaze over. And because we're in the middle of a coronavirus pandemic panic, and that I worry the severity of the Flynn case is going to get lost, as it is in the panic of coronavirus. So being pithy, remember Bill O'Reilly used to say, be pithy, keep it pithy. I'm a big believer in keeping this simple. And as we talk about the General Flynn story, I think we need to keep it simple. People have long forgotten all the players and actors and the multi-episodic things that unfolded years ago now. They just have. And for those of you who have followed it and remember it chapter and verse, good for you. But I'm telling you, if we want to express to people how the abuse of power and the abuse of government and how the Obama's DOJ targeted the Trump campaign administration, now more than ever, we got to synthesize it down to its essence and explain to people why it's so serious. And I hope we can do it. I'm trying here, but I don't have the constitutional legal background or mind to do it. So we got to bring in brains like Andy to help, and brains like Christine Flowers to help, who is a legal mind in her own right. Christine Flowers is back, no longer with the Philadelphia Inquirer, and just as well, because she's found a new home at places like Broad and Liberty. Christine, good morning. Welcome back.
Hello, my darling. I just very, very quickly to go back to what you were just talking about. I completely agree that we shouldn't lose sight of the simplicity of the Flynn situation in this, the coronavirus pandemic kind of environment. And I've always been a little skeptical of the deep state conversations. I mean, I'm, a little bit more of a moderate on that. But I will tell you, after seeing some of the revelations from the report yesterday, about what the Obama DOJ/FBI did in an attempt to essentially do an abscam kind of thing on General Flynn. I think it really is, and I'm so glad you had Andy McCarthy on because he is such a brilliant man. It's really important to focus on that because this isn't just a normal thing where you're trying to get a criminal to sell a dime bag of cocaine or whatever to a police informant or whatever. This is a situation where governmental power was abused, and there was an attempt to really change the outcome of a presidential election, and that's very dangerous.
Yes, and that's really for most. I think for most people, that's all you need to know is an outgoing president and his FBI director and
right.
and senior leaders in the FBI were targeting individuals inside the incoming president and his campaign, and trying to entrap them. That's it. And then the discussion, if you want to take it further, fine. But I think most Americans can understand that simply, and it's just wrong. But anyway, not why you're here, but thank you for opining. I appreciate it because appreciate your perspective. You have another great perspective on Joe Biden. This Tara Reade allegation. It's interesting. I mentioned yesterday. They are doing some background digging on her, as the left loves to do when there's ever an allegation against somebody on the left. They don't do it for somebody like Christine Blasey Ford, of course, when it's Justice Kavanaugh. No rectal exam for her. But, they're digging deeply to figure out whether Tara Reade is to be believed or credible or not. You've written an entire piece at Broad and Liberty on this.
I did. And, this goes beyond the whole issue of the credibility of Tara Reade. That's kind of like we beg the question when we start talking about the credibility a priori of Tara Reade, because no one a priori questioned the credibility of Christine Blasey Ford before they conducted a 2 to 3 week prime time witch hunt investigation. They called it an investigation on primetime television. And what upsets me, and I have been, and you know this, I have been a virulent critic of the Me Too movement, and I still am, because I think in many ways it's a it's a modus and a mechanism for vindictiveness rather than for truth-seeking. But if we're going to be fair about this, and we're not going to turn Me Too into a political cudgel, which of course it is, we need to investigate allegations and accusations equally, regardless of the political affiliation of the victim, the alleged victim, or the alleged predator. And in this case, I'm really upset because it seems as if everyone is attempting, with the exception of a few deep dive investigations, one by the New York Times and I believe one by the Washington Post, that chiseled away that no one's talking about any longer. With the exception of that, everyone else, all of the loudest voices from the Me Too movement have been silenced. They've had tracheotomy. No one is speaking. And that, I think, as I said in the piece, I said it's an indication that the Me Too movement was never about empowering women. It was being used as a political weapon. It was weaponizing women's grievance for partisan purposes from the left against the right. And I have criticized the attacks on Al Franken.
Yep.
I got my ex-editor at the Inquirer writing an apology to the readers when I defended Bill Cosby. My stuff is apolitical when it comes to the Me Too movement. That's why I was really upset when I didn't see the same gusto from the Me Too avatars, the Me Too leaders, when there was this accusation against Joe Biden.
I would love to continue this over at the podcast a little later today if you have the time. I'm a little short on my end, but if you have the time a little later today, can we continue this conversation?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. If you have a little free time this morning, I want to spill over to the podcast and spend a little time to spread our wings and talk about this. I'll leave you with this. The University of Delaware board members keeping Biden's Senate records secret, and they have close ties to the former vice president. So University of Delaware locking up that information now won't make it public. What do you make of that? Related or unrelated?
I think it's res ipsa loquitur. I think that's self-evident. They're locking things up. Did anyone lock things up for for Brett Kavanaugh? No.
No.
Did Georgetown Prep lock things up for Brett Kavanaugh? I mean, this allegedly happened when Biden was a middle-aged senator. Brett Kavanaugh was a 16 or 17-year-old high school prep boy who allegedly never even did anything but was, accused of being in a room when something happened. I'm sorry. It's just, res ipsa loquitur.
Christine Flowers, her latest work at a fantastic new site you must go check out if you care about issues like these and a lot of great local Philadelphia issues looked at through the prism of sanity. Not the Philadelphia Inquirer. That's Christine Flowers at Broad and Liberty. Always good to talk to you, Christine. We'll do some more a little later in the podcast today.
All right, Chris. Take care.